Lincoln!
How's it going?
Dude, things are going great. I got to change my name.
Yeah.
Jack.
On the video.
Darby!
Hello. Can I eat my yogurt while we hang here for 15 minutes?
Please, eat as much yogurt as you want.
I just got off another call and was like, I'm not going to make it till 2:30. There's no hope.
I know. I was just thinking about how I didn't eat lunch, and I might just slam this cold pizza into my mouth really quick.
Yeah.
Lincoln, don't judge me.
I've got breakfast, so Darby, I'm Lincoln. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Darby.
Awesome. Darby, I forget that I know everybody, and of course not everybody else knows everyone. That's rude, if you were wondering.
Did drive across the country twice, meeting everyone. So
that is true.
No, but I didn't. Darby, when did we meet each other?
We met at Director's Camp. No, we didn't meet at Director's Camp. You weren't at. No, you did. Director's Camp, the year we camped, you guys were going to come to my place, like my camp, and then it canceled because of a hurricane. So I went up like the 2 weeks later to you all.
That's right. Which was great.
Dang hurricanes.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
Did you
I haven't let you forget me since.
Did you get the Google link, the Google Meet link in addition to this Zoom link?
You mean like the email that was just changed, like sent, like there was a change to your event?
Yeah. Because it said join the meeting and there was like a Google link there. So it took me to like Google Meet, right? And I was sitting there, but then I also had the Zoom link and I was like, and Kurt's was like, make sure you have the Zoom link. And I was like, okay, but your meeting has the Google link. So I don't know, I was just confused.
No, I see that.
Well,
maybe I'll try to join the Google on my phone and see.
I tried that. That's why my video wasn't working a second ago. I had both open.
Well, Kurt's kind of is the boss about all this stuff. I just showed up, so but Kurt told me I'm the host, so that's gonna be because we didn't run family camp, so I don't have anything to say, and I'll just now I'm just the host. But I told Kurt, I was like, so you want me to show up and ask everyone who ran successful family camps how they did it in case I want to run one next year? Okay, so so it works out great for me. I get to double dip.
Darby, where's your camp?
I work at Camp High Rocks, which is an all-boys camp in Western North Carolina, so in Brevard, North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So, yeah, it's pretty. We got a great camping community here, so it is a pretty. This kind of thing happens like regularly, just with local North Carolina camps all the time.
Is High Rock right outside Fayetteville?
No, there is a High Rock, and we're High Rocks with an S at the end.
Okay. Got it.
Sometimes
you have more than one rock.
Occasionally, someone's like calls and they're like, "I'm at the light. Do I turn right or left?" And I'm like, "There's no lights anywhere near us. Like, there's not even a traffic stop. Like."
Oh, geez. Well, cool. I visited High Rock once. It was the Camp Corral conference was there, and so we hung out there. So
attendees can see us. So if you're here, I'm just eating my yogurt before we get started. So you know. Oh. And you're at Camp Seymour?
Yes, YMCA Camp Seymour. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I like the strategically placed banner in the background.
Oh yeah, this one right there. Yeah, like my staff, they took a picture of all of the unit leaders together, and they're like, we should get it on a poster. And some guy was like, why not a banner? And so like a bunch of these huge banners. They called their meeting area was called the Thunderdome. So they made it
Jack and I need to step up our background banner.
I know. Well, normally I have great background situation, but I'm at this like weird apartment near camp that has better internet than camp does. So it's not ideal at the moment. But we're working on it. We're gonna get there. You know, I'm taking notes. Better background, Lincoln says. Wait, Lincoln. For Darby, I worked at Seymour for one summer before Lincoln got there. So I'm gonna do some inside baseball now. But what do they call the Thunderdome?
The conference room.
Oh, okay. Well, that wasn't that was not in existence when I was there.
Yeah, they had the unit leader meetings there, and they were like report to the Thunderdome, please, for unit leader meetings. And I don't know, just fun stuff. But yeah. Mm-hmm. You like my Pappy picture?
Oh, did Pappy paint that, or did you paint that?
I had a staff member paint it of Pappy. Yeah, I can't paint that well.
Well, me either. Danelia, welcome. Danelia's audio is coming in. Boom, bam, boom. Welcome, Danelia. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Insider baseball continued. Danelia's dog spent most of the summer at Stomping Ground, which was pretty amazing, and only 2 trips to the vet because of some porcupine situations.
For a camp dog, that's great. That's a great ratio.
I'll take it.
We would have preferred 0 trips to the vet. But Harbor was so great off leash all day long, and then when night time would happen, a little bit spooked sometimes, get a little too excited, and but only two trips is not bad. We're gonna wait for Joe and Bernard and Katie. There are 2 attendees at the moment that are already logged on. They can see what's going on with all of us, just so you all know. Cool. If you want to curse, I don't know what curse's stand on cursing is. I'm not going to curse personally, or at least I'm going to try not to. And we'll get started in 7 or so minutes, and I'll do kind of a brief intro of what we're doing, and then I will try and call on folks to keep the conversation moving, because there's going to be a lot of people, and there's a lot to talk about, and I know all of you a little bit, and we can all talk. So I may or may not cut you off at different times, but please just keep talking. If you talk too much, I'm not afraid at all to interrupt. So I'll slow you down, but keep things going. Like, don't be afraid to just like tell the whole story of what's going on, and I may move you along or cut you off. And if you have cool things to say on top of what somebody else is talking about, so if it's like an on-topic ad, we use what we call the hook at Stomping Ground. And so just throw up your hook if you have something you want to add on that's on topic. And I may be able to bring you in, I may not, depending on kind of how timing's going. Kurt sent a bunch of kind of prompt questions to all of you, I know. You may, I may follow them. I might come up with new questions depending on how the conversation's going, but we'll start there. And we'll let people chime in with questions in the chat, things like that. Y'all are probably quite good at technology and have done this a million times. You probably were already pretty good at Zoom 6 months ago, and since then you've probably just become experts. If you're anything like me, you just spend way too much time on Zoom, and you're happy to do anything else when you have a chance. I don't know about you, but I've moved so many things that I might have used to have done on Zoom to my phone, just phone calls. I prefer phone calls to Zoom calls for almost all, like, hey, we just need to talk about something, because then I can walk around camp. Or
especially when it's 2 people, it's way easier to do a phone call when it's 2 people.
2 people, call me on the phone. Call me on the phone. But Danelia, how is Harbor doing?
Oh, he's good. He is kind of just like a bull in a china shop. So he just kind of like walks around and breaks things, which is fine. But He's really good. He's at daycare right now, so that's like at our neighbor's house. It's not like a real daycare. So he goes there and he's just like so excited. And my favorite thing he does is he will go to like all the houses in the neighborhood and he'll knock on the door to ask them if their dog can come out and play. So like he'll just like walk down the road until he finds a friend, till he finds that someone says yes, and then he'll just go. So yeah, but he's been good. He transitioned back really well, which I was nervous about. So
Harbor was at Stomping Ground all summer. If you're someone's just joining now, and it's Danielia's dog, and is a beautiful Burmese mountain dog puppy. Just not a puppy, right?
He just turned 1.
We had Harbor's birthday at Stomping Ground this summer, which was great. Harbor is now a Stomping Ground dog forever.
He loves it there.
We couldn't have loved having Harbor at Camp Moore, and people just loved it. So
Camp dogs, best life.
Laura was quite sad to see Harbor go.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sad too, but Laura was the kind of like, when Nicole left, she was the mom, the aunt, the person in charge.
I kept on seeing Harbor in the background of all the Stomping Ground videos and just being like so jealous, because like my dog has so much love that she wants to be at your level, and so she'll go, and she just wants to lick your face, throws her paws into your chest, and so like there's just no way I can have her around kids. Like this like such an awesome thing to have a dog around Camp Jack. I'm just so jealous. So Harbor, what camp are you at? Sorry. So I said Danelia, what camp are you at?
I'm at Frost Valley YMCA.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. What do you do there?
I'm their conference and retreat director.
Woo!
Yeah.
Awesome. I used to be the adventure director there.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, by default, I am also the family camp person.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. Love everyone there, so I'm sure you're super cool.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Joe.
Great.
Hey, just call me Asparagus Joe.
Joe, we're going to get started in 2 minutes. I told everybody else to keep their answers really short. No, I'm just kidding. I told everybody else to just talk as much as they wanted. And
wait. If the answer's going too long, go like this.
Yeah, so Joe likes to talk a lot, everyone. So if you need to cut him off, just do it. It's good. But we'll get started in a minute. We'll let everybody join us. Bernard, I haven't heard from. He's supposed to join us as well, but he's very busy and sometimes is late to things, I think. I don't know. But it'll be fine. We've got a lot of expertise in the room, and I'm sure we'll be able to cover an incredible amount in the next 90 minutes, which Kurt set us up for.
That's
I know, Joe. We had to extend it. We at the Summer Camp Society retreats, we do 5-minute talks where everyone gets 5 minutes to like share something interesting, kind of like a TED Talk, but in 5 minutes. Joe's was 15 minutes. But all right, hey, we're back. It's 1 o'clock, and we're going to get started. We're talking about family camp, the pivot to family camp as a kind of conventional style, traditional overnight sleepaway camp. In the room, we've got a lot of people who have run sleepaway camp in different ways, and this summer, the 4 of y'all went from having a plan in February to run kind of your standard camp program. No camp program is standard, I know, but the one you were planning on with kids and no adults that they knew really before they got there. And at some point, we're going to get into this, at some point you all changed your plan and went from we don't have a plan anymore because the world is on fire to we're going to try something. We're going to have some form of family camp. And I want to dig in as we go forward on what that means. Like, what does family camp mean at High Rock versus at Seymour? They're different. And I know there's going to be some pushback on the terms, so we'll get into that. But I'm Jack, and I did not run family camp this summer, but I want to know what you all did in case we need to run family camp next summer. And I think that's why a lot of the attendees are jumping in, because we don't know what the world's going to look like a year from now. And I might be running family camp. So that's what we're going to try and figure out. So I'm getting Bernard's trying to log in. He can't figure out the Zoom. I'm going to get that taken care of. But first, I'm going to let Darby give us a quick introduction of Darby. Who are you? Where'd you come from? And how did you decide to run family camp this summer?
Yeah. Hi, y'all. My name is Darby. I use she, her pronouns, and I work in Brevard, North Carolina, so Western North Carolina, at Camp High Rocks, which is typically, in a normal summer, is an all-boys overnight camp. We run about 2, 3, and 4 week sessions. And we made the decision it was once COVID-19 kind of, summer camp might not happen. We hadn't canceled yet. We said, let's go ahead and start throwing out other ideas. If this doesn't work, what's our option C? And once we canceled normal summer, we sat for about 2 weeks and said, can this be done? And we had a lot of ask from our families for a family camp. And we said, there's a want, and we figured out kind of some of those things that stopped us from running summer camp. We could figure them out during family camp, and then we went for it.
And Darby, what was I'm going to ask everybody this question. So Darby, you're on the hot seat. Everybody else, you get a couple extra seconds. What was, one big thing you learned in that transition? Just one, doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but one big thing you learned that was like, whoa, I didn't think about this as we transitioned from family camp, or from just kids to family camp.
I think a small piece I already knew, but something that was even more magnified. We had run one family camp before this. Last year was our first time ever in Labor Day weekend. So we were fortunate to have a pre-trial of the summer. And what I didn't realize was, man, how much I love parents. People say parents are the worst parts about their job, and at Camp High Rocks, these parents are some of the best parts about our job, which is, I think, very surprising to hear in a summer camp, that we're not complaining about our parents, but we love them. And that was surprising a little more than normal.
How many people on the call feel like, give me a thumbs up if you felt like you went into the summer maybe having mixed opinions of parents, and you left the summer with higher opinions of your parents? Okay, Joe. Bernard's like, I would never say I had a negative opinion of my parents. I had great opinions of my parents from the beginning. Trick question. Hi, Katie. Hi, Bernard. We're doing a quick round of introductions, short on what your transition was like from running camp for kids to running camps for kids and grown-ups. Lincoln, at Seymour, I worked with you. I didn't work with you. I worked at Seymour some number of years ago, and I know that it was not ready for family camp, but you'd had a little bit of experience with family camp, Labor Day and Memorial Day in the past. What was it like transitioning to full-time family camp this summer?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. We've been kind of pushing our family camps since I've been here. I love family camp. It might be my favorite thing out of camp, and it's kind of a blasphemous thing to say. But I realized all of the things I missed with parenting, seeing parents come and re-celebrate their family love together at a camp environment was just such a powerful thing for me. My first couple of years working at a camp, that it's kind of always been something. So when we kind of started to pivot towards that direction, I was just kind of a little bit excited because I just love it. I think that for us, it wasn't a light switch. We built out a half camp where half capacity across the board. We built the entire program, built the entire staffing, and then like the water just kept getting warmer in the pot, and we just had to make this marginal decision where we said, all right, now is the time we need to throw that out and go to this next model. And family camp was the sort of default from the beginning for us, because we knew we could do it. Our facility fit with what the needs were. And then also, this is a shout out to the Pierce County Health Department. They were awesome. And they really worked really closely with us to build out a safe model, an acceptable model for them. And that was just crucial for us to be able to roll out the family camp model. So, yeah.
And Lincoln, your cabins have bathrooms in the cabins, and then are basically big open rooms with tongue and groove siding, tongue and groove pine inside, and then bunk beds. So that's what they've got. But they do have bathrooms and showers in each cabin.
Yeah, and that was really helpful for us, because we could say, that's your bathroom, you know? And so, but what we did was they actually had the dirty clean switches that, you know, you put on your washing machine, your dishwasher, right? We put on those on all the other bathrooms around camp property. So if you had to use one of them, you could switch it to dirty, and then we'd come through and clean it and switch it back to clean again, so that everyone, we turned all of our other bathrooms on property into one-time use bathrooms, which was pretty cool. But yeah, the bathrooms in the cabins were huge for us to be able to run this. So this is my kitchenette. I designed it. I was like, what would that look like? And that's a $2,000 kitchenette that we're definitely not going to do. But that's the next level.
All right, I love that. And Bernard, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have bathrooms in your cabins, but you did run successful summer camp this summer for families. What was it like for you transitioning?
You want to talk specifically about bathrooms or more broadly?
I want to hear about it all, but let's hear about what your first transition was like, and then if the bathrooms were a problem.
Yeah.
What you did.
Yeah, teaser bathrooms weren't a problem. We'll tell you how we got there. So I'm at Camp Echo, a YMCA camp in Fremont, Michigan, based out of the northern Chicago suburbs, Evanston, Illinois specifically. And it was a pretty easy shift for us as well, kind of like Lincoln. We have a really positive history of family camp here. We've been running family camp for since, I believe, the 1950s, and have had really successful family camp for many years. Generally, we only run Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend, Friday to Monday, and then a week, 1 or 2 week-long sessions, depending on how the school calendar falls, in late August. And we usually have about 100 to 140 families that come to our family camps over the course of a summer. So serving maybe 40-ish at any one time. And so very early on for us, when we knew that youth camp was in peril, family camp was a strong fallback for us, or a strong alternative, I should say, not even a fallback. So we made the shift. We opened up July 6th, and we've been running reduced capacity. So we have about 75 participants at any one time. So with our staff population keeping us under 100 people at any one time in our facility. So about 15 to 20 families at a time, running week long. So we were running Monday to Saturday for the most part. And at this point in the season, we've shifted to weekends. So we're running Friday to Monday. And we have 3 more weekends scheduled. We're going through the end of September, which is as far as our facility can really go. And yeah, it's been really phenomenal. A lot of families that were already planning to come to family camp, so grateful. A lot of kids that were signed up for youth camp, and their parents, as some of them said, took one for the team and came to family camp because their kid wanted to be at camp so much. And then their parents were like, oh my gosh, like, now we get it. I heard that so many times this summer, kids who've been coming to camp, because we're pretty, we're not unique, but like we bus about 95% of our campers to camp. So we have a lot of parents who've been sending their kids to camp for 5, sometimes 10 years, and they've never seen the place. And so they got great opportunities to see it and meet the staff and really understand the experience. I could ramble on, but I'll tell you about bathrooms. So we have what we call our kaibos, our shared bathhouses. We have a new one that we built 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's indoor and delightful, all sorts of nicer amenities. And we have 2 older ones that are kind of screened in, open air showers, a little lot more rustic. And so we even asked in our registration process, do you prefer indoor showers or outdoor showers? So we could assign people accordingly. And then what we did is we assigned about 4 families to each kaibo, each bathhouse, and we assigned within the kaibo families to a specific shower, a specific sink, and a specific toilet. And if there were only 2 families in that bathhouse, they might each get 2 of each fixture. If they were a larger family and we had smaller families, they might get 2. And going into the summer, I was expecting a lot of kind of negotiating or facilitating passive aggressive kind of conflicts within bathhouses. Nothing. Families were really appreciative. In fact, they enjoyed the fact that they knew that that was their shower for the week and they could just leave their toiletries in there. They didn't have to, take it back and forth as they would in other summers. So across the board, people just really appreciate it. And it's interesting reflecting back on past years where we were concerned about, making our bathhouses all gender. I mean, our bathhouses this summer were all gender, all ages, and not a peep from anyone. So that went really well for us.
Katie, I know you have also shared bathhouses, thank you, Bernard, in most or maybe all of Algonquin. Algonquin I've not been to yet. And what Bernard's talking about in a lot of ways is that families were more willing to be agreeable and maybe a little less, maybe I don't want to say their standards were lower, but they were so excited to be out at camp and to have people bending over backwards to try and make the camp experience happen. Was that kind of what you saw at Algonquin? And how did you go from we're going to have youth camp to we're going to have family camp? Bernard, I'm going to start saying youth camp instead of whatever jumble I was saying before. It's a nice way of not saying regular camp to family camp.
Yeah, I like youth camp. I know I go back and forth. Normal camp, standard camp, resident camp. Yeah, so I mean, first off, to be honest, Bernard kind of led the charge in our Michigan YMCA camp space. And since ECHO has, speaking with Bernard and with previous directors, and hopefully my internet's not too bad, you guys can hear me, that the structure is similar. Everything is shared bathhouses, so there's no bathrooms in the cabins. The initial decision to cancel camp was incredibly painful and, in my opinion, too drawn out, but we'd never been in that situation before. But no one wanted to make the call. And eventually I had to make the call. And, once we did, at that point in time, we hadn't put together alternative plans. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but we had wanted to, but there were, situations within the spring that kind of limited our time. And so we had to go from 0 to 100, which camp people are used to doing anyways. So, we just got right in there and took our what we normally have is a 1 week at the end of the summer family camp for alumni that I'm pretty sure Kurtz is responsible for bringing back, which is great. And we love it. And it's wonderful, but it's people who know our camp and know that it's rustic and it's not for adults, it's for kids. And so I think I'm answering your question, not sure. As far as, yes, changing standards, our families were so gracious, so thankful to be there. I was blown away, to be honest. Some of them, pretty much all of them, at the end of each session, I would talk to each family and they said, this exceeded our expectations. We wish we could stay another session. It blew me away. I did not expect that. I did not expect that adults would be okay with our rustic kids camp. But we also went above and beyond as far as our cleaning and sanitation procedures, our mask requirements, our signs, everything being just dialed in. So that way it was, in our opinion, the safest, cleanest, most, cleanest possible environment. And I think the parents recognized that we were going above and beyond to make it happen. And we're really appreciative of just the fact that they could be on this beautiful lake. And yeah. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. And thank you, Katie. If you have questions, attendees or panelists, please just put them in the chat and we'll try and get to them. Danelia, you are at, I believe, the largest YMCA camp in the country. Why the Rockies? I'm not going to give them credit because they were designed to be a family camp to begin with. So you had a task that was seemingly, to me, insurmountable, and I'm very glad that I was not in your shoes. But can you talk about what that was like, and specifically what the kind of communication looked like to families as you rolled out a new plan for family camp this summer that was different from what they were expecting?
Yeah, so we're not new to family camp. So I'm the conference and retreat director at Frost Valley. So I actually don't have a hand in summer camp. Or in traditional overnight camp or day camp or really anything that goes on in the summer on a really regular basis. So I typically oversee our school year time family camps, which we run about 5 during the year. And so when we canceled summer camp, and what was, I guess, not nice for everyone, but helped us gain support in that decision was that our governor actually shut down overnight camp shortly after that. And so then it was like, well, no one can go to overnight camp. So that was good. But typically summer's a downtime for me. But as soon as we decided we weren't going to do overnight camp, it was like, okay, well, we're going to do family camp. So here you go. Put me in, coach. So I got here and we started just making models of what we could do, what we thought would work, what we thought our families would like. Our summer camp families were asking to get out of New York City, out of Brooklyn, out of these places where they were together in, small apartments for long periods of time. And so that was really important. Once we made that decision, we kind of rolled that out. And then people started signing up right away. We had someone sign up the night before we opened registration. So that was really good for us. We did have quite a few obstacles put in by our county and the permit that we got. So we weren't, able to run staffed activities, and we weren't able to run the dining hall. And so we did very basic kind of campground style, but we're here for you kind of family camp. And, the biggest thing that surprised me is our families really loved it. If you asked me a year ago, I would have been like, they won't come for no activities, because we talk about activities with our guests so much. But they came and they loved it. And a lot of the feedback that we got was well, 1, thank you for getting us out of the city. And 2, we got to spend time as a family, and we got to be outside, and we liked the non-scheduled downtime. And so people really enjoyed that. And so, yeah, so we've seen anywhere from 30 people a week till the week of our traditional family camp was about 250. So we've kind of gone up and down, back and forth as far as how many people have been here.
Thanks, Danelia. And how did you, I want to know, I'm going to let everyone hold up a number here. And then 1 is that your family cooks their own food. 2 is families picked up food from a central location and then ate someplace else, maybe at their cabin, maybe somewhere else. 3 is they ate in a central location in the dining hall or in a tent or something along those lines. Or 4, Jack, you didn't think through, but I did something different than that. So 1 is they cooked their own, 2 is they picked it up, 3 is they ate together somewhere, 4 is something else. Oh, okay, cool. Danelia, I need to know about number 4, and then Joe, I'm gonna let you talk too. I promise. I know that you've got a lot to say, but I have to hear about what number 4 is.
Oh yeah, sure. So for our traditional week of family camp, we actually surveyed our families and asked them hey, this is what we're doing right now. What will work for you? And food was an issue for them. They were like, you don't feed us, we're not coming. And so we were like, all right, cool, we'll feed you. And so we actually delivered meals to their lodge. So we Like I did meal delivery. I was the boots on the ground. It was so fun. And we're doing it again in October for another family camp, and I'm so excited. But we we delivered food to them, and so we kind of gave them like a block of time to expect us in, and then they had to be there to get the food, and that's what we did. And so that worked out for us. It's like a lot of work. I think we delivered like 240 to 50 meals 3 times a day for a week. So it was all focused on food delivery. So yeah, we delivered food.
I love that. Of course, should have thought of if you can pick it up, you can deliver it. Just like we do on our phones. Joe, you ran family camp this summer. I talked to you a lot before you decided to do it. When you first started, you didn't want to do it. I know that because you wanted the kids to be able to come to camp without their parents. And then I talked to you last week, and you kind of loved having family camp. How did that happen?
Well, I was pretty early in canceling camp as well. How did it happen? One, the great support of other camp professionals in talking this out. I was in a few groups. Darby was in one, I believe. And by the time I had to write, or we as a small staff, because we ran a small program, there was only 4 staff and me. Then there was 5. Then one was fired. Then I had a second group come in. And the firing was an interesting story in itself. But by the time it was ready to get everything rolling, and we started July 1st, and we had I moved down here June 1st, and then I think the staff came a week later. It was amazing how fast we could put everything together, and everything was in my head regarding policies and all the bases we had to cover. So that part was easy. Making the choice to do it was hard, Jack. And one mom from Columbus, who I'd never met before but had run camp fairs, came down with her daughter, walked around and said, "You should do this, and I can get 10 families to join, and I'll come for a week, and I'll pay X amount of dollars," which was way more than I thought I would charge. Well, she never came, and she might, and I'd let her come for free, but that put me over the edge. And once we, it's been an extremely positive experience for the same reasons everyone else is saying. I'll add 2 things to that. One, like you're saying, the service we provided families was very powerful. And the little, by adding in little flares of camp, which gave them the context to express some of these feelings, was pretty cool. Second, we were able to do much more than I thought. Like we started very conservatively. We were only going to have 5-6 families here at a time, which is about the most we ever had was 34 people, not including our staff, which was only 5. But as time went on, we offered more staff-led activities, such as archery, such as inner tubing behind a boat, socially distanced campfires. A lot of it was independent. With such a small number, I could give each family their own boats, their own life jackets, their own paddles. Then we figured out how to clean everything. I let them take the pontoon boat out by themselves rather than me giving a tour, even though we built a Doctor Who TARDIS for me to stand behind with plexiglass. But in general, it was a big surprise. Not very stressful whatsoever compared to a normal summer. That was a welcome relief in some ways. And I think I learned personally good management, some new management skills over my staff, which I would have not have expected just because you had to do it. I trusted you. There wasn't many of us, and they worked really hard. So all positive. Bathrooms, 1 in each cabin. And your own, unless you were in a pod. Some families decided to pod up, and they would share.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Bernard, we talked before you decided what you were going to do this summer about why bother with a million things. We got all kinds of in the weeds about what was the point of camp, as we do. And then we said we were going to call each other a week later, and we never did. But my question is, one of the things you were trying to figure out was, how do you combine the mission of camp the connection for the outdoors that we were hoping to give families, and the activities or the community that occurs at camp, whether that's through activities or at the time we were certain we couldn't do any activities. And I've seen that you have done some, but how did you try to reconcile those three things: hitting the mission of camp, connecting families with the outdoors, and building a community in this weird COVID world?
Great questions. Mission, outdoors, and community. Awesome. I'm going to just think about that for a second here. I think the one thing that we found often, which was really kind of, I think, surprising and magical of this summer, is we heard from a lot of families who've been coming to family camp for several years that this was their favorite year of family camp. Now, that may have been in part because they needed it more than ever, but when we talk about mission, I think that's one piece that I think we delivered on, it being family camp and a meaningful family experience in ways that we haven't in the past. Because in the past, there's been a lot more freedom. And parents appreciated being able to watch their kids from a distance as they went off and played with their friends. Families could go different directions. But this summer, families had to stay together as a unit a lot more. And they really had more quality time, shared experiences in a lower stress environment. I'm not going to say no stress, because there's definitely, stress at camp. So I think in that way, we were able to land on our mission in some neat ways, and definitely being really mindful of access. I think that was important to us, and that we didn't overcome all the barriers. Transportation to camp is still a barrier for us. We're 4 hours away from the community we serve, but we made sure that anyone who was receiving financial assistance to attend camp during the summer got that same level of support to come to family camp. It was really, really important to us. And we reached out to some of our partners to see how they could continue to support us through this work. And another piece of mission that was exciting to us is, obviously, a lot of the decisions we've been talking about have been related to COVID, but also we're very mindful from our staff training on, even before, of the racial unrest in our country, and the need to not ignore that for our staff or our participants. And so we're really excited to have our parents and our youth at camp this summer, and to create spaces where we could have dialogue about traditions at camp with our parents and participants. And that was something that I think really struck true to our mission, the idea of joining in conversation with people, opening up conversations about the Pledge of Allegiance and raising an American flag at camp. Like, it's kind of just baked into what we do. And I realized we never really talked about why or how, and our staff led some really interesting conversations. So a lot of neat mission work there, I think, that helped me see, like, okay, we are achieving mission. The outdoors, I think it's something that our families liked, is that we had activities. So they'd have 4 rounds every day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 2 or 3 of those would be scheduled activity rounds, maybe going paddleboarding or archery, horseback riding. But 1 or 2 rounds were free choice, or not free choice, but self-guided time. And a lot of those families took opportunities to go for nature hikes, and said, okay, we can't just show up at the waterfront and sit at the beach. Let's go for a hike. And people, I think, connected with parts of our property and our nature in ways that they hadn't before, because it was just so much easier. We can just go do this activity. And lastly, with community, I think our staff did a great job of bringing the camp energy to a lot of traditions, finding ways for us to still do our campfires and our amphitheater spaced out. We had the little markers on all the benches of where people could sit, and we were all wearing masks, but we still had our campfires. Our dining hall basically got transplanted outside. We set out a lot of tables outside below our dining hall porch with umbrellas, and ate all our meals in a community setting. We only got rained out once the entire season. And that just became kind of a central hangout zone. The tables were spaced out far enough that, people could be sitting on their benches facing away from their tables and talking to the table next to them. And a lot of community was built in that space, which I think was really important. So I think those are a few of the ways that we tried to land on mission, outdoors, and community.
Thank you. Craig is letting us know, just so you know, if you're a panelist and you are responding to a chat, which I encourage everyone to do, change your settings to all panelists and attendees, so the attendees can see the chat response. Bernard, I do want to dig back into.
Can the attendees also change it to all panelists and attendees? Do they have that option? Because they can't see the questions coming in.
Great point. So anyone, if you're anyone, raise your hand. Great, nice job, everybody. Please change, if you're going to type in the chat, to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the questions that are coming in. If that is, I'm certain that that's a possibility, and I'm not certain that Kurtz has those settings turned on, but I think so. She usually does. She's great at stuff. Darby, now that you're talking and we're here, what were some things, did you notice at High Rock anything that was pushing your program around the fact that there were now parents at camp, and whether that was kind of from a missional perspective, like Bernard's talking about, where they were like, well, why do we raise the American flag and say the Pledge of Allegiance, to, you know, a standard set of meals, or that people only have a certain amount of options for activities, that basically parents pushed on some things that you took for granted in the way that you ran camp normally with just kids?
Oh, I don't know if I have an immediate answer for that. You know, most of our camp did not look like it traditionally did. So some of those things like saying the Pledge of Allegiance or things like that, sort of, it was so different that you couldn't even push there because it wasn't happening. And honestly, the meals are pretty the same. We serve a lot of veggies here. So parents, we did not push more veggies on parents. They probably ate them more. But I think I'll have a deeper answer, but I don't have one at this moment.
No reason it's got to be a deep answer. Sometimes it's just easy to be like, yeah, we had more veggies, and now we're going to have more veggies for meals, and that's okay. Lincoln, if you knew a little bit about a small camp in upstate New York that had never run family camp before, you had, I don't know, about 150 kids that normally came, and that's my camp, if anyone's listening. What advice would you give to somebody like me thinking about running family camp for the first time in a world, let's say hypothetically, we're in a similar world to where we're at now in terms of COVID and kind of what's responsible. We know about as much as we do now, and you were going to run camp for the first time with families. What kind of piece of advice would you give to me?
I'd say a very, very well put together fruit basket to your health inspector. No, I think that like I mentioned this before, but you know, like the fact that they were willing to work with us, and like we put together a document and sent it to them, and they this woman Lori went line by line through my document and changed my words and said, like, it's a 15-page document that sources national studies about like how to respond, how to clean, what chemicals we're using and whatnot. And I did a lot of the work for them to be able to correct me. Then that that launched the whole thing. And I think that like every state, every county is so different on how they're doing this. And so it's difficult for me to give you advice in New York, because I think that like the counties are interpreting this like, because it's been decentralized, it's not a federal response. And that cascaded down to the states and the counties. It means that your county is the one that's going to tell you if you can or can't. That's the biggest question right there. And so I would say get that health inspector out to your property, get them to walk around and say, all right, we want to do this. What do we need to do? If you were in my shoes, how could we do this coming summer? And get them to tell you specifically, looking at your property, what you would need to do to be able to accomplish that. That's the first thing. And then I think the next step is filling the bunks and getting the word out. But I think it all stems from that relationship with your local health department. And they're not supposed to accept gifts, but a really nice fruit basket timed appropriately near the end of this holiday season or something like that. That would be my thought.
Thanks, Lincoln. I agree with that. Danelia, how did you look at filling bunks? How did you look at getting enough people to camp? I want to hear about kind of the financial realities from folks as well. But how did you look at how can we get enough people to camp to make this financially make sense? And how did you decide how to charge for that? I know Frost Valley is deeply committed to the for all aspect of the WISE mission, and I know that Frost Valley, all of a sudden wasn't bringing in all the revenue of what is normally the engine for everything that y'all do.
Yeah. So a couple things. We were very limited, I would say, by what our Department of Health would allow. Especially in the beginning. It kind of freed up a little bit as we went along, but we've kind of committed, so we're just going to keep plugging along at that. But we looked at what we could do safely as far as like cabin spaces or lodge spaces. And we kind of found out that like one of our like limiting factors, especially because we weren't providing activities, was going to be our campfire pits. And so we added a few where it made sense to do that. And then we made our capacity based on that, which was about 30-ish people, 30-ish lodges that we could use, which you can do, you at the time could do up to 10 people per lodge from one family. So that was like max, like 300, 310, which is fine. And then to kind of set our price point, we kind of like looked around at what other people were doing, because other camps, but also like it occurred to us, like we have a lodge that's called the Friendship House that has like a full working kitchen, and that we could sell that at a higher price point because there are a lot of people trying to get out of New York City. And so we did that, but then it was really important to us to also hit the mission. And so we also made sure that we saved a certain number of spots for scholarship families to come to family camp every week. So we saved those spots. And so when they wanted to come, we reached out to our partners, and they helped us identify people who needed the break and needed the time away. And so we brought those people here, and we helped them with lots of things like transportation, and we helped them some with food or coolers or whatever their hurdles were to get here. We tried to really just eliminate those distractions so they could get here, be here as a family. And that has been pretty successful for us.
Thanks, Danelia. And hearing you talk about getting extra coolers or extra PPE, Katie, I'm seeing a conversation or a question from Mark here. What were some of as you built a new family camp program that was similar to, but different from what you'd done in the past, what were some of the line items that in your budget that ended up being higher or lower than you expected? If you don't want to say lower because you don't want your boss to know that you spent that in a different area, that's okay.
No, that's a good question. Yeah, we ran through a number of different budget scenarios before kind of making our decisions, but a lot of it came down to cleaning and sanitation materials, and it was very supported and understood by our why that we were going to need to ramp those things up. Purchasing a $1,000 sanitizing sprayer, electrostatic sprayer. That was probably the biggest line item. And then, the cleaning supplies, the food, our food budget definitely was higher on a price per meal than with our standard youth camp, and mainly because we were looking at a lot of individual items that we normally, can have our big thing of peanut butter that everyone shares. But no, now we need to do individual condiments for everyone. We tried to take our bigger things and portion them into smaller containers, but that took a lot of time and energy. So I'd say the food, and also just, wanting to feed the adults at probably, a higher standard than we do our kids. Not that we don't feed our kids good food, we do, but they don't necessarily, have the same palate. So food was higher. Program materials, I'd say that was where we were really low. We essentially said, let's just use whatever we have here. Let's get really creative. And that worked out fine. So we didn't need to purchase additional items in order to run our program. So that was really helpful, except for a tube, because we wanted to do tubing. We've never done tubing. We've only ever done water skiing. So that was something that we purchased. So that was fun. But at the end of the day, we were going to be at a loss whether we ran something or not. And so we had to make the call. How much are we willing to lose, and what can we gain from choosing to run family camp, where we can be up there, start preparing and thinking towards 2021, do all the facility work that needs to get done and won't get done if we're not up there. But we certainly still operated at a loss. This was not a huge revenue generator. And, I'd say that if next year, if we can run youth camp, I'm going to do everything we can to run youth camp, because that is how we're going to generate revenue. It's not going to be through family camps, unfortunately.
Joe, I know you've poured over your budget a million times to try and figure out how this is going to make sense financially, but how are you looking at alternative ways that having parents and families be at camp turn into revenue this year, next year, or down the road? How are you either going to get more kids because of it, more donations? How are you looking at that? And what are you doing to kind of make this a loss leader as opposed to just a big loss?
Yeah, that was another surprise for me. Our camp's a bit strange in the model we have across the country, because we're a private camp. I own it, but we have a sister nonprofit dedicated only to our camp, and about 55% of the kids get financial aid last year, and I would say almost 40%, somewhere close to that, kids of color, who are not all getting assistance, but more of the kids of color get assistance, if I analyze that. So all that being said, the people who came to our family camp this summer were of the higher income sort, because I charged, which is in the chat, for me, a lot. And I was pushed by various people, including Jack, to charge more. And there, at this point, like I said, we ran a smaller model. I could have probably had a huge capacity if I wanted to, with the number of cabins we had. But we've had 55 families so far, and some of those families were like 2 families and grandparents. And we're staying open through the end of October. So get to Jack's point, some of those people have already joined our board of directors on our nonprofit. I spent a lot of time, because there were so few people here, talking to people, teaching them about our camp, emphasizing our mission and how we're different and how this is what we believe. And if your kids want to come here, well, they just knew this is the way it works. It was the easiest recruiting I've ever done in my life, because I didn't have to say anything, just be myself. And I think the opportunities are great because of that. Was I getting cut off, Darby?
No.
Darby, what do you got?
That's Jack's way to tell you that, like, I've got a hook, like I've got something to add on to that.
Oh, I thought I was getting cut off because of the too much talking problem.
No, Joe, I wasn't cutting you off, but I would not cut you off. That wasn't.
Oh, add on, my friend.
I would say, and if you guys know Travis Allison, he calls these the Karens, the people that love your camp, will shout your camp from the rooftops. And, those are the people we're leaning on typically to host our parties in the fall or to recruit more campers. Every single family that came to family retreats for us is now one of those. It blew my mind. The like, you know, it's great. We have father-son weekends. We're an all boys camp, so we have father-son weekends. We have nothing for moms to come to camp typically, or any other family member. It's typically uncles, dads, whichever, a male with their son. There's no way to get the whole family at camp, even if it's not a mother-father combo, if it's a different style of family. We have no way to get them all at camp typically. And this created a way that the whole family was in. I mean, they're selling us hard. They're already, like, people are switching sessions to get into longer sessions who are here. They signed people up while they're here. They called friends and said, you need to come to family camp, or you need to have your camper come. So we are not making any much money off of this, but the ramifications of the families who are now invested in us and really know who we are, besides an opening and closing day, I think is going to pay off for 10 plus years.
Joe, you're learning the hook. It's a hook when you have something. And then go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. The people I had who were existing families, most of them just came for free because I thanked them for rolling over tuition. There was a few who didn't. And there were some of those who came, I gave a reduced price because they had donated so much in the past. And there were some people I offered a free visit just because I saw potential with them. But I didn't market at all. A lot of this was word of mouth through people who came earlier in the summer. We even had an article written about us in Reader's Digest, which was a joke to me because, first of all, I didn't know it still existed, but I just thought I was getting interviewed for some local rag, and it turned out to be this. And she's coming back next weekend, and I've probably gotten 5 or 6 families from that. So, like, this new clientele, this new opportunity for me, particularly of people who have money, who can send their kids, which will make the mission of this camp sustainable, is a huge thing. And yeah, and they're all advertising, they're all posting pictures, and I don't have to do anything. So then the next question is, how do you take advantage of this now when it's all over, and how do you build up that new community for me, which is much different than a lot of you guys who have an existing community and a tradition of this.
Lincoln, how are you building up this community that have been to camp, and throw in whatever else you wanted to hook on that I noticed you had your hook on? You're muted.
Thank you. I think just to echo, like, it's going to be so great. I'm projecting that we're probably going to be running family camp next summer. Like, I think that's where I can't see the numbers get low enough where, because when it got low and we bumped to one phase, it boomed back up again. I think that they're going to make sure this is eliminated before they change any phases. That's me being a pessimist. If we're running family camp next year, I cannot wait to have more marketing time to be able to roll this out, because I felt like we were out of a cannon to get this done. And we did get that cohort of families that love Seymour and that they're there, but like, we're Pacific Northwest families. Like, these families plan out their kids' activities for the summer, the previous summer. And so getting in early for them to be able to put us into their schedule is going to be huge. I think that there's yes, they love, they're passionate, they're committed, but like, they want to know a year out if they can do it. And so this is like, maybe that's being exaggerating a little bit, but you know, with a couple of months ahead, we should be able to do it. My hook is, I really like what Katie said about food waste in the chat. Mental health and environmental stewardship took a super huge backseat to running this program this coming summer. And I'm excited for us to get that first summer out of the way so we can chip away back at some of our really core values and what we really want to do with our program. We're talking about one-time use packets. Is there a better way for us to do that with sanitization? And and food waste as well. We couldn't run composting this summer. We couldn't take the food back. And so there's probably a better way for us to do that. And then of course, like with mental health, like that was such a difficult thing this summer, processing, societal collapse outside of their work and staff members being committed to this and determining this is a safe thing. We called it the demon in the corner. Like everyone had this little demon beast in the corner, and like it manifested in different ways. And I think I've said this before, but it comes out in terms of like, why are all the life vests on the floor? Like, I hate you. And it's like, really, we're just stressing about the way society is. And it like, we had to process stuff, because we're all kind of holding our breath through this past summer. And I think that was a lot of lessons for this coming summer. So that was sort of like looking at 2021, my thoughts right there. So.
And you're bringing up what I want to talk about next too, which is, Bernard, how are you looking at what, when, and how to decide about 2021, and how does that impact 2025?
2025? Jack, what are you doing to me? I haven't thought that far. I guess I will now. I think similar to Lincoln, our community is definitely one that tends to like to sign up for things early. Usually we would open, in past years, we've opened our registration. We put out kind of our final program offering in September, October, opened up registration in November, December. Because families kind of sync their camp dates in and then build schedules around that. And we want people to be able to do that. We don't want their summers to fill. But my kind of experience anecdotally with our families is that no one's scheduling things for next summer yet. And so our plan right now is to take the fall, like a lot of other folks. We had a lot of people who rolled over. We guaranteed every camper who is signed up for youth camp this summer a spot next summer. And we want to take some time this fall to survey folks and see where they're at. What are they thinking? What are their preferences? We have a pretty specialized program offering slate for our middle schoolers and teens, with a mix of wilderness trips and our on-site programming. And we've committed to everyone that they can either do the program they were signed up for this past summer, or if they want to move on to the program they would do next summer, they could do that. So for instance, if they're supposed to be a leader in training, which for us comes before counselor in training last summer, they could do that, or they could do counselor in training. And so we want to gather that, which I'm really excited about, to really see where do people want to be so we can then build our schedule around that. And so we plan to then hopefully be able to open up our registration in January or February at the latest. And, I feel like it's for our community and for our camp, it would cause a lot of undue stress right now in an already stressful environment to push people to make decisions, and for them to feel like they have to make a decision about next summer when they don't even know what's happening next week. So I'm looking forward to pushing that forward in that way, and also avoiding having to undo, in the event that we don't run youth camp next summer, having to undo all the work of undoing is so hard. So, I'm thinking, like a lot of you, we now have tons of people that want to come back to family camp. And so that'll be part of our kind of thinking. And I anticipate that even if we are able to run some youth camp next summer, that we'll offer more family camp than we have in the past to keep those families involved, and to kind of continue leaning into a good thing. And who knows, maybe we'll get to the point in 2025, if we're looking out that far, we've got some time to build out some new facilities, and rethink how we split our camp up or use everything. Maybe we'll have family camp, as some camps do, running all summer, while we also have youth camp going on at the same time. Like maybe there's a way that we can make that work. One of the things that we had from a lot of our participants this summer is them saying, we've wanted to come to family camp for years, but we've only ever offered it at Memorial Day or Labor Day and in late August. And it just never worked with their schedule. They, especially for teachers, a lot of teachers who are like, it's the end of the school year, it's the start of the school year, I'm in meetings, I can't get away. And so thinking about just from an access standpoint, how we create more opportunities for people to come to family camp beyond those time periods. So yeah, I think that's kind of our plan for summer 2021 at this point, and things that we're thinking about for the longer future. I'll tell you, for the last couple of years, we've been raising money for a new dining hall lodge at camp, and it's kind of interesting to think about how a facility like that, the needs and the design principles that would go into something like that have maybe changed given what we know now. And I haven't figured that one out. So if others have and have redesigned their dining halls and their facility master plans, feel free to send that information my way. I would love to see it.
Danelia, I believe that Frost Valley has already opened registration for kind of youth camp for 2021. And I know that is outside of kind of your standard work. Like I know that, like you said, you're not Zach, you're not running youth camp. But have you heard from them? What was the thought process behind opening that registration this early? And have y'all done anything to kind of protect yourself against what Lincoln and Bernard both talked about, which is like the likelihood of family camp being necessary?
Yeah, so it's a good timely question, because for this I had a program meeting. We did open, and people are starting to sign up. One of the big decisions for us to have people sign up is that people wanted to make sure that they had their space. Like that was feedback that we had. They're hopeful for summer next year for youth camp especially, and so people want their spaces. Some of our programs are very competitive, like as far as typically in a typical year, we'll run fall programs all the way through December, and then we'll start winter programs. So yeah. So right now we're doing limited fall programs. So we're going to do Columbus Day, and then we're going to intentionally not do some programs for a little while, so that we can kind of do some evaluating, see what happened, and find out how we can serve our guests the best.
Thanks, Darby. Thanks, Delia. Darby, what other questions do you have for folks on this call?
I think everybody answered that. That's a big one. I would say I have a couple, but it's hard to pick which one. For all of you, expectation-wise, we talked about it a little bit in the channel, but was there something that you maybe missed, or something that you were glad you were hit on for parent expectations before they came? So this is, a totally new program, or a similar program, but looks different in a COVID time period than what you're used to. Was there an expectation that you told them in advance that really knocked it out of the park, or something you were like, crap, I should have told them to bring bath mats, and they all yelled at me? I mean, that's simple.
We did, for our family camp, we did an orientation on Zoom. We had like 3 or 4 different times that people could plug into, and that was incredibly helpful, especially because people had the opportunity to ask questions about things we never thought about. We were like, oh yeah, we don't know, we'll figure it out, we'll let you know. And so I don't have like an aha necessarily, but that exact experience of having our families come on to our Zoom calls and just ask questions, like they wanted to know how it was going to be different. They wanted to know if they needed this thing or that thing, even though we had like a very robust packing list for them. Those were things that were super helpful.
I think, Bernard, you did the personal phone calls, so you probably found a few of those.
Yeah, well, I should say I didn't do the personal phone calls, but our team did, and they did a great job. Shout out to them for making that time and energy. But I want to share something we did even before we opened our program that I think was really helpful in us kind of foreseeing what some of those things were. Is we did we did like program focus groups almost. Like before we offered it, we reached out to our family, said, hey, if you're interested in doing like a family interview with us, we want to kind of pitch a couple different program offerings to you and get your feedback, see what resonates, see what doesn't. It was kind of like a, like human-centered design prototype. So we kind of came up with slide deck. We had a couple different program offerings where it's like, we could, do assigned activities all day, or it could be kind of more just on your own, kind of like get meals whenever you want, or we're eating meals together, stuff like that. And that was really helpful to kind of see where people are at and see what their concerns were. Like as we went through, like, all right, like we just shared our plan for bathhouses. Like, what are you concerned about? What's scaring you? And like, I think that's where I first realized, oh yeah, duh. Like bathhouses are going to, like, even though we had the plan, they're still anxious about like, how do we, like, if we're in the same space, like what are the practices and policies? And so I think, that was something that was really, really insightful for our team. And we don't always have the time to be able to do that, but was really, really helpful in preemptively identifying those so that during our calls we could address a lot of those. I think, one of the people still have a lot of questions about activities. Like, will you have the horses? Like, are you water skiing? Like, what if we change our mind? Like, and now we want to do something else. And so, I don't know that there were any, themes that didn't come up kind of in our FAQs. And I think we, some other things, just like little details that we made sure that we emphasized is like our coffee service was not 100, and a lot of our adults need a lot of coffee throughout the day. We didn't have like an open coffee bar all day. And so we reminded people to bring their own coffee and coffee makers if they wanted. I think, letting people know that they might not be able to do every activity 100 times, but they could do everything at least once. Some of those things I think were helpful reminders, but yeah.
Lincoln, what you got?
You're muted, buddy.
No, he wants Joe to go, I think.
Got it. Okay. Sorry. Joe, sure. But I got
Darby, apparently.
Yeah. I was going to say, back to Darby's question, unexpected stuff. I didn't anticipate like younger staff members having difficulty setting parameters with parents programmatically. I think we trained a lot of our staff members to be great with kids, but there's sort of a neurological barrier for them to tell a parent no on something and do it with good customer service, of course. And so like I had staff members showing up late to the next programs, and they're like, well, they wanted to keep shooting. And I was like, okay, cool. However, so I had to do a lot of sort of on the back end encouragement of my staff and like building them up to have the confidence to be able to set those parameters with people that are outside of their age bracket. And I think that was something that society maybe didn't, this might be a regional thing too, but just hadn't trained them to be confident to have those parameters. And then we had some situations where folks were coming through with not wearing masks because of an asthma situation, but then how did they do zip line if our staff needed to get close to them to be able to, so like there was navigating that space and how we sort of like had empowering the staff at point source to be able to make decisions was difficult for our younger staff. We moved through it, but I did not anticipate that was going to be a problem ahead of time. So,
can I get a 1, 2, or 3 on this one as well? 1, you made sure that all families or some portion of families got tested for COVID before they came to camp. 2, you asked them to kind of like do some extra version of quarantine before they came to camp. 3, you didn't ask for anything, and 4, something else. So 1, tested. 2, quarantine, please. 3, didn't care at all for some other version. Didn't care at all was not what Bernard wanted me to say. Did you trusted that they would be responsible in their actions, and you had literature around that, but did no checking up upon it? Yeah. Okay, Bernard. Number 4, Danelia, what did you do?
Okay, so we had our families do what we called like a pre-health questionnaire, and it basically asked them a lot of questions like, did you come into contact with someone with COVID in the last 14 days? And so they filled that out for every single person in their party. If you're over 18, obviously you did it for yourself. Families did it for each of their kids. Then when they arrived, we had like a pretty strict check-in policy where we had rolling check-ins, so people couldn't all come at the same time, and then they had to social distance when they got here. We took their temperature first thing to make sure that they didn't have a fever, and then also that they weren't now experiencing other COVID symptoms. So we did a quick little interview with them, and then they were allowed to like come on site and go through our process with we were very clear that if you develop any COVID symptoms while you're here, please go home and call us when you get there. And so that was kind of like our process.
Joe.
The only thing different, I'd say, is we did the same kind of intake on site, but we generated a community norms, like a 1-page community norms of behavior on site and expectations. And by going through that individually with each family, that really set a tone. And one of my staff members was really smart. At the start of that meeting, he would ask them, we would ask them before we started throwing all of our rules at them, how have you been dealing with this? And the kids would talk to, what are your concerns? What are your comfort levels? What are your comfort levels with surface areas? We have buckets of non-disinfectant bleach and non-bleach disinfectant and rags and spray bottles and all this stuff all over the place for you to use if you want. But tell us about yourself, and we can tell you about some of the other families, and therefore you can help mitigate and negotiate your time here. We prefer you speak for yourselves, but we're glad to help you. I think that really showed some respect for them and an interest in how they were feeling, since there's such a spectrum among people. And then we hit them with all of our rules. But I was really impressed with my staff member who came up with that.
I would also add that, when talking to our health department, for us, it was, we are believing that everyone who comes in here could have COVID-19. So for us, it was, we're wearing masks, we're staying away from them. So like that influenced a lot of what we were doing. We don't have control of these people. We're not asking them to do tests. So we really, the way we ran our program was, if you have it, we need to make sure that it's not getting to our staff and it's not getting to everyone else. And I also think when we're talking about testing right now, I believe none of us just answer that we tested, but I think a huge portion of that is cost and availability. Next year, if people are running family camp, as a camp, we're talking that we will probably be testing at that point 3 times, because it's going to be $25 per test. You take your test at home. We take it when you get here, a rapid test. You take it 3 days in. So thinking about testing, I think that's going to change a lot in the next 7 months. And that could be something that we all actually do next year if that availability is there, which hopefully it's a lot closer.
And I know that I know of a number of sleepaway camps that are incredibly expensive to go to, and ran long sessions, 6-week sessions, where they bought testing machines, or they somehow had access to testing machines, and they did testing, like Darby's saying, many times throughout the session. That, of course, this summer was drastically outside of any possibility that we could do. But I'm with you, Darby, that I'm hopeful that any version of camp that happens next summer involves a great deal more rapid testing, whether it's family camp or youth camp or dog camp or whatever we might come up with. I heard a lot of talk earlier about communication with families, and I think in the camp world we do a lot of talking about communication with families, as in like actually we're talking about like propaganda to families, like we send people things. And I heard a lot more on this call about communication with families, like Danelia's, I'm going to call them town halls. I don't know what you called them, but kind of the informative conversations beforehand where there was two-way communication. Bernard's team called every family that that was going to come to camp. Bernard did what he called human-centered design questions, or put together proposals for like a couple of different options for what family camp might look like, and then got that feedback back. And then a lot of conversation at camp with families, hearing what did they love while they were there, which is not something, all of those things are not necessarily things we're always great at, you know, as an industry or as camps. Even if we do have those phone calls, I don't think, and I'm going to put us on my camp stomping ground on the line here too, we're not always great at listening, even when we want to, right? We we call every family that's going to come to camp for youth camp, but I'm not saying we necessarily hear exactly what they're saying and then make changes as a part of that. You know, we'd love to say we do, but no promises. What have you all learned, or what are you thinking about taking forward for the way you run camp, no matter how you run camp, incorporating some more of this two-way communication and balancing change and being willing to adjust program and staying true to what you care about or what makes your camp special. And I know from a stomping ground perspective, where we need to focus more time is on being more equitable and having those conversations in ways that make our camp more equitable. But it might be those kind of conversations. It might be like Darby saying is like, we should just put bath mats in the shower because we learned that everyone wants one. But how are you looking at two-way communication going forward, whether it's phone calls or surveys or whatever, and how that might shape the program decisions that you're going to make in 2021, 2022, and where Bernard's going to look is 2025 while the rest of us are trying to catch up. And I'm going to ask, anybody want to answer first? Bernard.
Jack, you made me go to 2025. I wasn't going to 2025.
Bernard, last time we talked, you were talking 2028. I don't know. Danelia, what do you got?
So just a reminder, I don't run youth camp, but you know, one of the things that we heard from our family campers just like across the board since July is that they really enjoyed the downtime that they had here. And we typically are like, go, 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 go. Here's 15 activities per day that you can, or per hour that you can do, and you get to pick and you get to run to the next one and all of these things. And so just like overwhelmingly people were like, it was so nice to just sit and read. It was nice to play a board game. And, you know, just from like a staffing standpoint, like, yeah, we would love to have a couple hours where we can answer emails and like, you know, hang out with you or whatever. But we're going to really take the time to put some intentional blocks of time. So maybe it's like from, you know, after lunch till dinner, we're not going to do any programming, and, you know, we're here if you need us, but, you know, we want you to plug in as a family, and we want you to take the time to read that book you've been waiting to read. We want you to play a board game or play cards or whatever it is that we distract you from, by offering all of these activities, because that was something they really liked. So additionally, people really like to explore the area. So we're in the Catskills in New York. It's a lovely area. People usually are here making candles and doing archery. So they've never gone anywhere around here. And at the end of the week, they go home. And so they really liked the time that we gave them to sort of explore and do that. And so we will do that moving forward.
More downtime and more opportunities to potentially leave site for family camp. Joe? Joe, you're muted.
Whoops. I agree with Daniela's comments. I experienced a lot of the same.
Danelia's comments.
Danelia. I think we're talking about two topics, like program at summer camp, program at family camp, and then the difference in which some of our programs may have supervised kids this summer. Like our families did move as a unit when they were in staff-led activities, although the whole family didn't have to do it. We also let kids be out of the sight of their parents if the parents had an agreement with them about where they could go and when they would be back, but we weren't managing that. So supervision was on the families. Now, I didn't have 100 or 300 people here. Even this weekend, when there's 6 families, it's going to have to be more structured about who gets to do what when, and then we have a meeting. But the whole idea of downtime and having it be our responsibility to create fun is something worthwhile thinking about, because when people take responsibility and create their own fun, I think it's obvious, experiential learning, and they own it, and they remember it. And it just like you're saying, Daniela, it takes the pressure off the staff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know a Daniela. Lo siento.
It's okay. It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's it.
Lincoln, and then I want to ask about how to sell free time, or how to sell unstructured time, or how could you possibly run a program for kids that wasn't sold based on activities? I might be on my high horse about this one.
Center of the bell curve of Stomping Ground. You are right on brand. Okay. So first off, I want to say, Jack, you were saying about what we're taking forward from this experience. And you mentioned before that you love telephone calls. I think they might be dead. I think that like parents' expectations for communication moving forward up until this point, the concept of putting them on a Zoom call with their camper during the summertime was not on the table at all. The independence of camp that we're building. And I think the expectation for communication, like if we have a problem we're working through with the camper and we're, seeking solutions and whatnot, typically we hit speakerphone, we were chatting, in the room right there. I think that's a Zoom call now with the parent and moving forward. And the expectation is on that. And so that's just my thought. And obviously different camps and will interpret that differently. Still hang on to that bad internet at camp thing. And then moving forward is of course, I don't think, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think we had norovirus on a property this summer across our industry. And I think that us upping our game with cleaning, an unintended consequence coming through from COVID is, I think we might put the kibosh on that. And it might be even, broader in society as well. Like that was something every year it felt like there was a wave of norovirus that just came across the country, and it would just domino camps. And you were lucky if you sort of dodged it. And especially I feel like the last couple of years, it was every year it was like, all right, and you felt it was on property for some reason. And I think that with these new expectations and understanding from parents, we'll be able to pinch that off and not have to worry about it as much, which is, I think it's awesome. I wanted to give you hot topics. Someone's going to give you drops here. Like telephones are dead and we killed Noro. So there you go.
I'm not great at teasers, but a teaser would be like, after the break, Lincoln explains why telephones are dead at camp and the norovirus will never hit your camp again.
Clickbait. There you go.
Katie, Bernard, Darby, any lessons learned from this summer going forward for you that you want to make sure you share?
I think for us, this summer was great financially.
Go, Darby.
Yeah, so this summer was phenomenal. We had a blast. As Katie and I were talking about in the chat, we got the full-time staff got to be out in camp a lot more, and so that was a bucket filler for us. But I mean, to be honest here, the financial money, the cost, the stuff, what we brought in to what we normally make in a summer is less than what a whole cabin would be. Like if we filled every bed in a cabin for the summer, we brought in less than one cabin. like if it was filled all summer long. So in reality for us, family camp is not going to keep our camp alive. Did it help us this summer? Absolutely. But reality, like we would have to figure out a different model. And I hate to be the Debbie Downer there, but that is like truth for us.
I love that, and I agree.
Yeah, same for us, Darby. Yeah, no, all I was going to say was that I saw people talking about the cleaning. I definitely would love to, moving forward, change up our cleaning standards for youth camp, you know, and that may mean hiring. We never have had support staff because our staff essentially do everything. They're the cabin counselors, they teach the activities, they clean the bathrooms, they do it all. So I think really being intentional more about potentially bringing in more cleaning support staff, like a lot of camps do. We don't really have that. And then, yeah, agreed. I mean, I think this was a really great learning opportunity for being able to prepare for a new era of youth camp, the hopefully post-COVID-19 youth camp. It's going to have to, right. It's going to have to be different. And I'm so grateful that we did it this summer in this safer environment so that going into next summer, we are going to feel a lot more prepared. All I would say for now is that, you know, I'm going to put together all of those alternative plans that I hadn't put together. And now we have the time. So first being youth camp as we've run it. Second being youth camp, either different session structure or lower capacities. And then third, really last choice is family camp. Even though I thought it was wonderful and great, never forget it. I hope moving forward, for the sake of exactly our camp's kind of sustainability and really the sustainability of our YMCA, because we really support them with our revenue, that we're able to run youth camp. But I mean, look, we got to be at camp and I'm so grateful for that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the health stuff, I think there are a lot of programmatic shifts that we have been able to make this summer. I mean, I think having more outdoor eating, our dining hall is literally a hot mess during the summer. It's so sticky and nasty. And, I think creating more opportunities for campers, cabins to eat outside, eat in different places. I think, the idea of cabins being together more and, hand washing between activities, but also, I don't know, I think there's a lot of learnings and things that we give ourselves time to reflect on how we can do things differently and better. And I don't want to take for granted the appreciation that we have this summer. People have been so appreciative this summer. I can only imagine if we're able to run youth camps next summer, how appreciative everyone will be to be at camp. So I don't want to take that for granted and say we can give them anything and they'll be appreciative. But I do, I think we were willing to take some risks this summer that we wouldn't normally be willing to take and make some changes that I think would have been harder in other seasons. And so I think there are a lot of changes that we made this summer, but there might also be changes that we've been thinking about for a while and haven't made yet, that next summer will be a space where we can do some of that. I think it's built a higher threshold for change in our community amongst our staff. So I'm excited to think about what some of those things might be. And I would say, yes, we definitely did not have as successful a financial season as we have in the past. And certainly the way we've operated financially and invested in our people and our facilities, we can't continue to do it the same way if we were to shift to family camp. However, there are camps that run strictly family camp and are sustainable. So I know that there is a way. But for those of us who aren't accustomed to that, obviously it didn't work this first time around, and we would need to rethink a lot of things. Which I'm curious, Jack, have you talked to any? Next time, I think it'd be neat to, because I know this was about pivoting, but So, I mean, intentionally, we didn't have anyone that was family camp before, but I would be curious, camps that were strictly family camp, how they pivoted. I mean, they had to pivot too, I'm sure, in many ways. And, so I think if for those of us or those of you out there who are thinking about how could I make this sustainable, I know there are camps that do it.
Yeah, I would, great. That'll be the next one. Bernard will host it, and we'll get Denord on here and some other camps. I will say, I agree with you, Bernard, and I hope that we as an industry can push ourselves to change more rapidly than we have in the past while trying to hold on to the things that make us who we are. And everybody likes the idea of change when we say it like that. Nobody likes the idea of change when it's like, yeah, we're going to get rid of this thing you love. And so having started Stomping Ground, I'm appreciative of the people that don't want to change more than I thought I'd ever be, because the people that love something and don't want it to change love it for a reason. And so I used to be such like just change it. Who the hell cares? Just change it. And I think like there is a part of us that holds on to those things for a reason. And so digging into what they are is important. And then, I think that the financial model of what do we do as camps to get to 2022 is going to be some of the hardest things that we do. And I think a part of that is figuring out how can the families that have been a part of our camp help us bridge that gap. And that might mean running family camp and then finding ways to fundraise more effectively. It might mean a million different creative solutions to how to cut maintenance costs, because you can run more family volunteer weekends. I know Denord, which is a family camp out of the Twin Cities in Minnesota, is that where the Twin Cities are, does incredible family camp weekends where families come up and build full cabins. Like, they do projects that most of our camps wouldn't consider having volunteers do. And that saves them money, which allows them to maybe charge less on something or whatever. So where can we find ways to reduce costs or increase revenue that are outside of what we're normally used to, when we're used to this cash cow that is, for us, every bunk is worth $800 for a week. And then, we give away tons of scholarships and whatever, but it's still not even like that. We give away 40% of our camper bunks in scholarship, but everybody in this call talked about how not even close to 40% of your bunks were filled this summer. So it's a totally different model that we have to look at how to do more interesting things to make the money work if we have to get to 2022 in a world where we can't run youth camp again, or run it differently. So anyway, this has been great. I learned a ton. I'm ready. Now I'm just ready to run family camp in 2021 based on all your advice. And I'm going to have to get to work on my plans A through D, and maybe I'll just send them to Katie and she can proofread them for me so I can not mess up too much. But thank you. Thank you all. Running with Youth Camp for Bernard. Y'all are amazing. Thank you for sharing. And next time, we'll be talking to family camps about how they changed to even different family camps. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thanks, Jack. Thanks,
Thank you.